5 inner critical voices. We call them the inner deceivers because they're trying to deceive you and make you believe something that simply is not true. So the first one is the classic judge. This is the default voice of judgment. You can't do that. You should have done this. You're too old. You're too young. You're too fat. You're too skinny. Nothing you do will satisfy the classic judge. So this is usually the standard. Anyone that experiences self-doubt, it will probably be this at some point. That's our first voice. The second voice that we find comes up is what we call the misguided protector. The role of the misguided protector, just as the name suggests, is to protect us from harm. But it's misguided because how it does that is magnify everything that could go wrong and all the ways that you will fall short and why it will never work out. Because if it can do that, then you won't take action. So guess what? You're safe, but you're also stuck and stagnant. That's why it's misguided. The victimizer is a super interesting one. And actually, we started dropping this out of the list of the 5 of them because we found people struggle to identify this in themselves because the role of the victimizer is to make you feel like a perpetual victim. Why is life so difficult for me? Why is life so unfair? There's this narrative of why me. It doesn't want you to take ownership. It doesn't want you to take responsibility. So you will often get stuck in complaining or frustration or blame. So that's the victimizer. It's the one that doesn't want you to acknowledge that there's always something you can do. So it gets you to complain.
Yeah.
The fourth one, the Ringmaster. The Ringmaster is that voice that we hear that tells us you have not done enough. You need to keep pushing. It's that part of us that feels guilty when we try and take a break. It's that part of us that attaches our sense of identity on our work. And it says you will feel satisfied and enough when you get there. So we set the goal, we get there, and then it doesn't bring that sense of satisfaction and fulfillment that we were seeking. And then suddenly we feel empty again, so we just set the next goal. So we're on this constant treadmill, hedonic treadmill. And then the 5th voice that we hear is the neglector. The neglector is the voice that tries to convince you that everyone else is more important than you, that everyone else's needs are more important than yours, and you should basically sacrifice yourself to make sure everyone else is happy, because they come first. And if they're happy, then maybe you're acceptable. And we see this a lot in anyone who is in a caring responsibility, anyone who is in a position of leadership, who has more of that servant leadership style, or anyone who has been in a relationship where they have been taken advantage of and they're so lacking in this sense of, hey, I deserve better or I am enough, that they become codependent and they basically put up with manipulation because they don't feel like there's anything they can do to change their situation.